Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sarah Jones with Politicus Radio. Joining me to talk about how Republicans tried to fool America into thinking they were civilized during this CNN debate tonight is Politicus USA's editor-in-chief, Jason Easley. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah.
That's what I get for trying to tweet at the same time I'm talking. Not a good plan. Just a few days ago, Republican political consultant Frank Luntz warned Republicans that they should watch the Democratic debate and try to emulate the grown-ups. But the problem is that underneath the cage-fighting circus of the Republican debates, the real problem the Republican Party faces is its platform. Even Frank Luntz can see that. He warned in a USA Today editorial, quote, "If you want to understand today's young Americans, consider this. 58% of them think socialism is the most compassionate political system, compared with just 33% who pick capitalism. Heck, even 9% even voted for communism. That's right. 2/3 in a poll I did last month say socialism or communism is more compassionate than capitalism," unquote. So, given all of that, tell us why the, quote, civilized, unquote, Republican debate was the worst of them all.
Because Republicans tried to foolishly overcorrect. They recognized that the first 8, 9, 27 bazillion debates we've had this year have been a complete disaster. So what they did was they think, because Republicans inherently believe the American people are stupid, what they thought was they will hold one debate where nobody attacks each other and everybody is civilized and speaks softly and tries to discuss the issues. What this exposed was the fact that the Republicans don't have a single new idea. They don't have a single new policy. They don't have anything to really say except, wow, Obama's horrible. Let's go back to the good old days of George W. Bush. If you would have closed your eyes and just listened to what the words that were coming out of their mouths, you would not be able to tell the difference between a 2008 debate, a 2012 debate, and a 2016 debate tonight. It was the same tired. They all called for more troops in the Middle East, except instead to take out Saddam Hussein, they want to go beat ISIS. They all called for privatizing Social Security. They all called for more of the same failed economics. They all called for, 2 of the 4 called for building a wall on the southern border and immigration, the delusional anti-immigrant fantasies. Ted Cruz blamed the violence at Donald Trump's rallies on Obama. Donald Trump blamed the violence on his rallies on the protesters. And John Kasich, the only sane person in the room, said there's a problem with the fact that there is violence, period.
Good for John Kasich, but, that isn't even saying enough, really. So Donald Trump blamed the protesters. The event everyone is talking about is the African-American protester who was being escorted out by security when an older white gentleman punched him repeatedly in the face.
Oh, he claimed he knew nothing about that. He had not seen it. He had just heard about it. He was talking about, in general, his rallies attract some big dudes with bad intentions that are protesting that cause trouble.
Right, but I don't care what Donald Trump thinks he's talking about. I'm talking about reality. The reality is that this is the event they were referring to when they asked him. They brought up the violence in the rallies. This is what they were talking about. Everybody is talking about it. So they wrestled the African American to the ground, and then the white man was charged, I guess, later, but at the time, you don't see security going after him. You don't see anyone trying to stop him while he leaned over several people to punch this protester who was being escorted out at the time. I mean, there's no justification for that.
No, there isn't. And Trump basically danced around it at the debate. Like, he didn't address that. He's never going to address that. Ted Cruz jumped in after him and, promptly said, Obama acts like an emperor and dictator and doesn't follow the rule of law, and this is why Republicans are angry. Like, to make it sound as if it is okay for angry Republicans to inflict acts of violence on other people.
Right. I mean, number one, this protester isn't Obama. I don't know why he's only saying that because the guy is black. That's the only connection. So they're just going to go around and beat up every black person because they're mad at Obama? Is that really their excuse? I mean, there's no other way to read that.
Blaming Obama, as we know, is their excuse for everything.
But, okay, yeah, we do know that.
And their own bad behavior.
They're children and they're not taking responsibility for their actions. But how do you get to Obama from this white man attacked a black protester who unprovoked? The guy wasn't being violent.
Well, the white man was angry because Obama has been a dictator.
He's mad at Obama, so what does he do? He attacks a random black person. What does that say?
A black person who flipped him the middle finger. So, of course, that means that you have to go...
But it has nothing to do with Obama.
That means you have to go and punch someone repeatedly.
I mean, it has nothing to do with Obama. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, it doesn't.
If they're claiming they're not racist, how does being mad at Obama translate to being angry at black people? You can't claim that unless you're being a racist.
Because as we know, sometime around 2008, the racism they used against Obama, they started projecting onto all African Americans, all minorities, and everyone. If you remember, we were writing about this. How the things they were sending in their emails, these government officials, these Republican officials, went from racist things about Obama to racist things about African Americans to racist things about Hispanics. Once that racism infected their party, it just attracted all of the racist. That's the Republican intent.
So let me ask you this. So I was mad at George W. Bush. Does that mean that I'm justified to go around punching just random white men? Is that what? Because that seems to be what Ted Cruz is saying. Is that?
Yeah, that's the core.
Just run around, everyone. You're mad at George W. Bush.
That's
Ted
the logic.
Cruz says you just run around and hit any white person you see.
But this debate really was an insult to the intelligence of the American voter. It really was the Republicans, whether the Republicans picking Sarah Palin because women will vote for women, or any of the stunts they've tried to pull over the years to try to get back into to be taken seriously in a presidential election. This had to be one of the silliest, dumbest stunts they've ever tried. Let's have everybody try to be nice for a night. But we're all going to forget the crap that's happened since the first debate in August. Because, all we're going to remember is that last debate where they were nice. It's insane. It's a party with absolutely no identity, no vision, no leadership, and no clue. They just think they can trick everybody in November. And, all the people that, and for 2 election cycles now, have looked at this and went, we see what you're doing and we don't think so. They think those people are going to go, but they were so civil in that debate on CNN in March.
Well, this just goes back, as you pointed out, to they're always, Republicans are very obsessed with externals and with how things look to people. They're not interested in substance. So if they can sell even a few people, a few moderate Republicans, on the idea that they're not frothing lunatics, and that they did look like lunatics in the last, the debates leading up to this one, where they pretended we play a civilized politician on TV, then that's good for them, because there are people who buy that, people who don't pay attention, and people who like their platform, as failed as it may be, and as out of date as it is. They've known that they've needed to expand their tent for a long time, and they haven't done it. So, but I do think that there are people who are going to fall for that. So it's good that they can sort of pretend, but that's all they have is pretense. Now look at Mitt Romney. He was a good pretender. It doesn't matter, though, what face you put on these policies. These are not policies that the American public want in the White House.
That's the key. And then the reality is they're doing this in March, not in October. No one's going to remember this by the time they vote in November. This is what makes it so stupid.
Well, and given that right now it looks like it's Donald Trump, and if they're lucky, let's all just pause for a moment and realize, let these words sink in. If they are lucky, it will be Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a far-right extremist, a religious fanatic. He's a con artist. This is not your Hail Mary pass here. This isn't what you hope for. This is a nightmare. It doesn't matter how civilized this debate was. The American public, when they get to know either of these two frontrunners, they're not going to like them. They're going to be afraid.
And you know what the terrifying thing in this debate was? Ted Cruz looked like a policy genius compared to Donald Trump. I mean, Ted Cruz knows some policy. He's only been around the Senate for a little while. Most of that time he's been spent raising money for his super PACs for running for president. But he looked like an absolute policy savant standing next to Donald Trump. Donald Trump was just an embarrassment.
Well, he doesn't know anything. I mean, he doesn't know what the three branches of government do, so I don't know why anybody thinks that he can handle anything complicated like any kind of foreign policy.
Trump refused to answer a question about whether or not he would close the embassy in Cuba. And his answer was, I would close it until America got a good deal. And he was asked again, and he said, well, I don't want to just get a good deal. We'll get a good deal. And then good deal, sell, sell, sell. And then Rubio stepped up and he goes, I can tell you what a good deal is. And he outlined free elections. He outlined all these criteria that the U.S. has applied in other places to get reforms and changes. And he said that's what a good deal is. I know what a good deal is. That's what a good deal is. And he really put Trump in his place. He showed that Trump is a know-nothing. Now, will it matter with an electorate that is basically devalued intelligence and intellectualism and goes with belief and feelings of what makes them feel good? Probably not.
They're not going to care. If anything, that just lost Marco Rubio even the few supporters he had left. I mean, it's sad, though. No, I mean, this is what, the country has come to. They have a party, that one of the two major political parties come to this circus, this deranged tent of clowns. That's what they are. I mean, it's just stunning. And I'm glad they put on a show tonight of being civilized, because it does matter to even pretend to be civilized. But Donald Trump isn't doing that during his rallies. Ted Cruz isn't civilized. Look what the Senate is doing right now, delegitimizing President Obama by refusing to even hold a hearing for a Supreme Court nominee. These people aren't being civilized in any of their actions. So,
yeah, and you know what? Mitt Romney tried to fool voters in 2012, and eventually his mask was ripped off. Mm-hmm. And if Trump tries the same thing, or if the party tries the same thing with whatever hellish ticket they end up with, it won't work. The scrutiny is too much. The media is on them 24/7 in the general election, in the presidential election. You can't, in the age of the internet, you can't fool voters. Ask Mr. 47%, President Romney.
Right. Well, that's a good point. And even John Kasich, who I think is their strongest choice, if they could ever, they can't get him to be the main person on the ticket because their base doesn't like him. But even if he were their choice, now, then you start getting into his policies, and he's Mitt Romney. So if you take the best case scenario and you pretend like that could happen because they could sell that to the base, it's still crap, because I don't care how you lipstick on a pig. You're wrapping up the same platform. You haven't changed your platform. You knew you needed to change it. You didn't. In fact, after they were told that they did that whole post-mortem after 2012, and they knew they had to change their policies, and they knew they had to stop alienating minorities, what have they done? The exact opposite. They have actually doubled down on everything they knew they needed to not do. And they've been lulled into this sort of false sense of security by the 2014 election, which was only due to the map. It had nothing to do with, and the fact that Democrats don't turn out in off-term elections. But, that gave them this sense of security. But it's not real, and they should have known that.
Yeah, I do not see how the same platform that failed in 2008 failed in 2012 and got more extreme by 2016. they're going the wrong direction from the rest of the country. And they keep